Anyway, this is Ethan Klein of the Rise of Liberal Islamophobia.
Figure out ways to prevent this stuff. Like, the stabbing was happening for a few months, and now it doesn't really happen so much. And I don't even know how, but they have like their secret ways.
אין חשמל, אין מזון, אין מים, אין דלק. הכל סגור. אנחנו נלחמים בחיות אדם, ואנחנו נוהגים בהתאם.
When you talk about privilege, let's talk about someone who's going to UC Berkeley, paid by their parents, $200,000 tuition on campus protesting Israel. Do you find that ironic?
I personally think it's so ironic. It's just like, I don't know, it's kids sitting here in like beautiful California criticizing, like, you don't even know what you're talking about.
What we're seeing now at Columbia, and I don't use this word lightly, we're not seeing ideological war. We're not seeing support for terrorism. We are seeing terrorism.
When I grew up, I couldn't really take a bus. I was afraid of blowing up.
Right.
And now it doesn't really happen. So the wall did help. So should we not have a wall?
Since the events of October 7 and the ongoing disproportionate retaliation by the Israeli state, both Islamophobia as well as anti-Semitism have been on the rise in the United States.
And the Palestinians are taught to kill us at 2 years old!
That's pretty spicy.
Yeah.
Do we have that one?
Man,
I don't understand why left-leaning media, which is mostly Jewish, are calling people white supremacists, dude.
Jewish. Did you just say that?
Yeah, I just don't understand.
Left-wing media is mostly Jewish?
In order for Israel to maintain their system of apartheid and to justify their inhumane actions in Gaza, Islamophobia is quite obviously ingrained in Israeli society and Israeli politics. However, by associating itself and its actions with the religion of Judaism, falsely claiming to be acting on the wishes of the Jewish diaspora, Israel, ironically, is also perpetuating anti-Semitism. And that is 100% by design.
They are vehemently against not only Israel, not only the Jewish students. Anti-Semitism is unquestionably a problem at the universities, but it goes significantly beyond that. These are protesters who are being influenced by outside organizations. The Islamic Republic of Iran is thanking them for their work. They are giving permission.
I mean, how can chat literally laugh at this person who's also unflinchingly presenting an insane conspiracy in the same breath as they fucking yell at me over my assessment that is probably not fucking aliens that are invading Wildwoods, New Jersey? That, to me, is no different than QAnon. You understand? That's why I'm so mad about all this shit. I can't stand the stupidity, regardless of whatever ulterior purpose it serves, okay? I can't stand it.
Mission to these terrorists.
Overnight, the U.S. House passed a bill 32291, and a group of representatives say they want to protect their Jewish constituents. And the bill would essentially make...
You're not really denying the aliens as much as you're trying to dismiss there being actual drones, though? No, you're too stupid to understand that I'm not saying that there aren't any fucking drones. I'm simply stating that these are it's very unlikely that these are nefarious drones that are coming from an Iranian mothership or Chinese drones. The large majority of the drones that you see are not drones. They're just aircraft that you think are drones. There is definitely also a lot of commercial drones that people are flying around, especially now because there's more interest, there's more intrigue. And those are the people who are trying to figure out what's going on with the drones, so they fly their own drones. The average person doesn't have the understanding of what is a drone and what is a fucking commercial aircraft. That's it. I'm not discounting the idea that there might be actual fucking testing being conducted on drones that like Amazon and Walmart will use for shipment, or drones that might be deployed on a civilian population by some defense contractors. I'm not discounting that at all. I'm simply stating that there are less likely narratives here, and that is that there is a fucking alien mothership or an Iranian mothership, and that these are drone swarms happening to fucking, I don't know, do something. No one says what they're trying to do. The closest we've arrived at a tangible conspiracy theory that actually says they're trying to do something was the one guy that we just watched, the CEO, who said, oh, they're fucking bomb sniffing drones. They're nuclear radiation sniffing drones, actually. And they're doing that because there's a nuclear warhead that my friend saw that was trafficked from Ukraine to the United States of America so they can do a fucking false flag operation and go to war with Russia. That sounds insane. That sounds far-fetched, especially because if America wanted, and I detailed this already, if America wanted to use a false flag operation to go to war with a nuclear country, they would just send trainers over to Ukraine and then fucking pepper them around, Eastern Ukraine. So then inevitably when they got shot, they would say, oh my God, you shot our military members. Now we have to defend our military members. We have to go to war with Russia. They won't do that because Russia has nukes. And so does America. That would be literally nuclear holocaust. They wouldn't have to do some false flag shit here in the United States of America. That's my argument. Okay? The real deterrence here in America not going to war with Russia is that they have nukes, and so do we. It's not because, America just doesn't have the right cause for it. Oh. You say you don't fuck with the topic of the UAP and it shows. I love you, dude, but do some more research. Tic Tac incident is very well recorded by multiple sensors. Yes, I've seen the Tic Tac incident. I don't know what it is, okay? And I don't think it's fucking aliens. But it's okay. If you want to believe it's aliens, that's fine, okay? I've decided it's fine. You're right. That TikTok was an alien pod. The alien perk. Yeah. It's a perk 40, dude. But for aliens.
Make it easier for the Department of Education to enforce anti-discrimination laws at public institutions.
So this bill would require the Department of Education to use the International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance's definition of anti-Semitism, denying the Jewish people their right to self-determination by claiming that the existence of a state of Israel is a racist endeavor.
Anti-Semitism is an ancient form of bigotry, but since the creation of Israel for the past 80 years or so, it's been used as a tool for the growth and continuation of Israel's existence. And no, this isn't some conspiracy theory. Israel quite obviously wants more anti-Semitism in the world in order to justify its Zionist project. And by continuing their atrocious actions in Gaza and the West Bank, while wearing symbols representative of Judaism and claiming to be acting on the basis of Judaism, they guarantee the continuation, if not escalation, of global anti-Semitism.
The anti-Semitic decision of the International Court in The Hague is a modern Dreyfus trial, and it will end the same way. The decision to issue an arrest warrant against me, the democratically elected Prime Minister of the State of Israel, and our former defense minister, was made by a rogue prosecutor who's trying to extricate himself from sexual harassment charges, and by biased judges who are motivated by anti-Semitic sentiments against the one and only Jewish state.
Sleek and stylish in this wool blend, Najiba is hot, hot, hot. It's a look that screams, look out world, I'm a woman of the 12th century.
Islamophobia is also an ancient form of bigotry, and although its existence in the United States was prominent before, Islamophobia's use as a tool for manufactured consent reached its cultural climax more recently, specifically after 9/11.
You're saying that Islamophobia is not a real thing, that if you're critical of something...
Well, it's not a real thing when we do it.
Right.
Well, no,
it really isn't.
I'm not denying that certain people are bigoted against Muslims as people, and that's a problem.
Big of you.
But
why are you so hostile about this concept?
It's gross. It's racist.
We have to be able to criticize bad ideas. And
of course we do. No liberal doesn't want
Dude, Sam Harris is so funny. Look at this tweet. The problem of anti-Semitism in Europe is mostly coming from the Muslim community and the far left. It's still a fringe phenomenon in the US, though that could change. And it's so funny because this is like the European style. He's doing the European method. That is fucking delusional, dog. These are the people that did the Holocaust. And you're like, yeah, the people who are direct descendants of those who carried out the atrocities of the Holocaust have no nascent, unexamined anti-Semitic tendencies whatsoever. It's actually the fucking Muslims that are importing anti-Semitism to these countries. It's also ridiculous to say it's a fringe phenomenon in the US. There's a lot of unexamined anti-Semitism in the US as well.
Man, it's gross. It's racist.
We have to be able to criticize bad ideas. And
of course we do. No liberal doesn't want to criticize bad ideas.
But Islam at this moment is the motherlode of bad ideas.
Jesus.
So we have
9/11 was a major turning point in the United States. The 90s were almost seen as the end of America's global fight against evil. The USSR was far behind us, and the United States didn't have a major adversary that they could villainize for their own self-interest. So in August of 2001, when George Bush was briefed by the CIA about credible threats of plane hijackings, it was the perfect opportunity for manufacturing consent. And that opportunity became reality on September 11th.
Today, our fellow citizens, our way of life, our very freedom came under attack in a series of deliberate and deadly terrorist acts. I've directed the full resources of our intelligence and law enforcement communities to find those responsible and to bring them to justice. We will make no distinction between the terrorists who committed these acts and those who harbored them.
For the next 2 decades and counting, the United States would use this day to not only justify their actions in Iraq, but to justify any sort of potential war crimes inflicted on an Arab or Muslim population.
The 9/11 attacks were carried out by Al-Qaeda, an organization headed by Osama bin Laden, which had openly declared war on the United States and was committed to killing innocents in our country and around the globe. And so we went to war against Al-Qaeda to protect our citizens, our friends, and our allies.
And 9/11 was only the catalyst. Growing up in the United States post 9/11, I was surrounded by subtle yet quite obvious in retrospect anti-Arab propaganda. 2013 saw the release of World War Z, a zombie apocalypse movie, where at the movie's climax, we see a mob of zombies scaling the walls surrounding Jerusalem and attacking the civilians taking refuge. And who's on the other side of that wall in real life? Palestinians. This movie literally illustrates Palestinians as blood-hungry zombies. 2014 saw the release of American Sniper, a film following US Navy SEAL Chris Kyle and his deployment in Iraq and then New Orleans.
He then later said that when he got back home, that he was on top of the Superdome and he
Dude, that's like, dude, fuck Chris Kyle. Oh my God, fuck Chris Kyle. Motherfuck Chris Kyle. Oh my God. Oh my God, he's such a fucking racist, lying piece of shit, dude. Fuck him. %100 annem mi aldı? Emin misin? Annemin aldığına eminsin. Sordun mu? Sipariş ettin. My dad has ordered the fattest cannolis I've ever seen. After I told him, please don't buy any more desserts and treats. I keep eating them. I can't stop myself. Okay. Yeah. Chris Craud. Chris Kyle is a liar, a fraud, a racist. He's just an awful dude.
Shot over 30.
And the irony is the one time he was trying to do right by his fellow veterans, he got killed by a fellow veteran who he was trying to help with his PTSD. The irony is the one time he was trying to not be a fucking asshole and like, you know, try to help out a fellow veteran, he killed him. He just popped him when they went to the gun range together. It's fucking nutty.
Looters during Hurricane Katrina.
I mean, maybe it wasn't the best idea to take a fucking PTSD-riddled veteran to the gun range, but I'm just saying, like, his intentions seemingly were good in that instance.
What a preposterous lie. How stupid are you if you believe that?
Throughout the film, he's seen as both a hero of America's freedom, as well as a victim of our own actions, almost making it seem like we had to be in Iraq, but it was still a sad situation. God, I love neoliberalism. And what was happening during the release of this movie? The United States was propping up and funding rebel groups in the Syrian civil war to overthrow President Bashar al-Assad. And whoops, we just created ISIS. We also grew up with master works like Captain Phillips, where Somali pirates are given zero humanization or explanation for why they're hijacking ships, the only explanation being they're just a bunch of crazy Arabs. Or the beautifully innocent movies of Sacha Baron Cohen, a British man who's made an entire career off of perpetuating dehumanizing anti-Arab stereotypes.
In my country, we have KFC, Kazakh fried cat.
These associations in our media create an anti-Arab bias in the minds of its audience. But where those biases are confirmed is when these victims of American imperialism reach a point of retaliation, like the events of October 7.
Today, the people of Israel are under attack. In this moment of tragedy, I want to say to them and to the world and to terrorists everywhere, the United States stands with Israel. I got up this morning and started this at 7:30, 8 o'clock, my calls. Hamas terrorists crossing in Israel, killing not only Israeli soldiers, but Israeli civilians. Entire families taken hostage by Hamas. Just days after Israel marked the holiest of days in the Jewish calendar. It's unconscionable.
For the past year, ever since October 7, 2023, Islamophobia has seen a resurgence in American media. Palestinians are described as terrorists who have a hidden desire to unalive Jewish people from a young age.
Rudy was saying that Palestinians are taught at 2 years old to kill Americans.
That's pretty spicy.
Yeah.
Do we have that one?
mean,
Like Kamala.
Put that
The other one.
I could add it.
And those who support the people of Palestine are labeled anti-Semites or even terrorists themselves.
What we're seeing now at Colombia, and I don't use this word lightly, we're not seeing ideological war. We're not seeing support for terrorism. We are seeing terrorism.
And what it was literally a vigil for terrorists. Now, I was on the University of Washington campus last week when they had this big rally.
Not my shy Davide.
This big march for Hamas, when they were literally chanting from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free, and they mean free of Jews. They want all Jews out of the land. I had people literally tell me to my face that they were celebrating the fact that babies had their heads cut off.
There's nobody on the entire platform to call him out. Nobody. They've all been banned. Nobody. There's not a single dissenting voice with his straight up radical, anti-American, anti-Semitic, pro-China, pro-Russia, pro-terrorism takes. This is fringe, psychotic shit that is not normal.
Anti-Semitism, however, has also been on the rise since October 7th, thanks to Israel's undying ability to associate its war crimes with the religion of Judaism. A religion, by the way, that is fundamentally built on peace and the idea of loving thy neighbor as thyself.
My Jewish values teach me to oppose apartheid.
Now, the reason I've...
Yeah, that was Ethan talking about me, saying that I have radical fringe, pro-Russia, pro-China, anti-American views that must be eliminated. Or, at the very least, why are there no brave voices to address and criticize?
Decided to make this video is not simply to analyze the growth of both Islamophobia and anti-Semitism. The way politics is today, political analysis becomes significantly more interesting and easier to understand when discussed in the context of internet drama. In fact, this OG YouTuber has built an empire, a dying empire, off of internet drama. This OG YouTuber, famous for his appearances in blackface, brownface, whiteface, and poopface, has more recently become famous for spewing, on the daily, both Islamophobic and anti-Semitic rhetoric.
Fresh criticism for Hasan, who is an outright supporter of terrorism, quite literally. He is a champion for terrorism and a supporter of terrorism. And if you don't believe me, watch the video.
Now, there's a lot of details.
If you stand up against it, go on debates, just team tag you and call you anti-Semitic and what? Yeah, as you guys know, I'm a big fan. Do you sometimes feel like we're feeding into Hasbro and making it more effective by addressing every single point over and over and over and over again? No. I think it's worthy. There are moments where it's like silly to do that. And then there are moments where you need to make sure that people understand. There are moments where you need to make sure that people understand where you stand. Especially because there are obviously, like, there are people who say anti-Israel shit, and they do that to launder anti-Semitic narratives. There's an Arabic phrase that means repetition teaches the donkey. It seems anti-Semitic. Just because you said it's an Arabic phrase, which automatically means it must be anti-Semitic. It's silly to continuously condemn Hamas every time. It's not silly to break down Hasbro lies. Yeah, for sure. I also don't want to I want to weed out people who get duped, or rather believe the people who just like will cynically sneak and launder anti-Semitic messages into criticisms of the state of Israel. You know what I mean? I want to make sure that people understand that there's no space for that. Now, a lot of fucking dumbasses will also cynically say, oh, he's doing this to hide from all of the attacks. Okay? He's doing this, except I've been doing this for years and years and years prior, because it's something that I do believe. Like, I don't think that there's any space for anti-Semitism, nor is there any space for Islamophobia.
Details I could get into regarding Ethan's racist crash out, but I'll save that for a future video. What I really want to focus on today is this tweet, and the context of this tweet by hasanpiker.
My former podcast co-host misunderstood me when I said in America that anti-Semitism is institutionally unacceptable, but Islamophobia is permitted if not encouraged. Yesterday, he proved my point.
Ethan has a long history of Islamophobia, stretching all the way back to his time in Israel. Go figure. Like when Ethan and Hila visited an Arab village, and Ethan was afraid of the call to prayer.
Hila, are you sure we're going the right way? Hila, are we going the right way?
I'm hoping so. Yeah, no. I don't know, we just need to find the water.
You know what they say? Follow the Allah Akbars.
Or when Ethan said Arab Muslims have an inclination towards committing acts of violence.
I do, on the other hand, acknowledge that, like, I think per capita, a lot of the weird fucking terrorism and crimes and shit, I mean, there's definitely some strong thread of violence through the Muslim community. Yeah. Or Arab Muslims, to be more specific.
Or when Hila said the wall between Israel and the West Bank had to be built and was proven effective.
They built a wall, and Israel should be a one state with Palestinians and Israel's all living together. They should reduce the borders and remove the gate. That to me seems like super ignorant.
It is, because when I grew up, I couldn't really take a bus. I was afraid of blowing up.
Right.
And now it doesn't really happen. So the wall did help. There's still a lot of other ways. There's tunnels and, you know.
Yeah, rockets.
Yeah.
When Hila was a kid, there.
It's just, it's an epigenetic. It's just like genetically predetermined that if you're Arab, you hate Jewish people and you want to kill them. It's just how it is. That's why we need a wall. Yeah, it's just natural. I want people to understand that, like, reasonable people or good people can also be duped by these narratives as well. Okay? Especially because there has never been a fascist movement throughout history that hasn't justified its fascist nature by creating a healthy dose of propaganda and laundering it over and over and over again. It's not like, while we all understand what the Nazis did were horrifying, right? Like, they also spent a good deal of time early on laundering anti-Semitic sentiment in order to justify what was to come later down the line. It's not like they were just like, yeah, we want to do the Holocaust because we're evil. Okay, they didn't say that. They didn't just like magically one day decide like, yeah, let's just put all the Jewish people in concentration camps and kill them because we're bad guys. And then that's how they communicated that to the public. And then the public was like, well, we're also evil too. Thank God. I love doing evil. Like, it's not how that goes. Okay? It's not like Jim Crow or the apartheid in South Africa was presented to the population as, we just actually want to do bad things. We want to do bad things to black people. No, it was a century of justification for chattel slavery that was repackaged throughout time as society evolved. And every step of the way, those who wanted to reinstate the racial pecking order would make arguments over and over again to justify why this must exist, why Jim Crow must exist, why apartheid must exist. That's it. And I don't think people understand that. Like, when they have this like unexamined, resilient, Islamophobic attitudes that they've grown up believing, that they've been socially conditioned into taking as truth, and they hear something like that, they go, yeah, that tracks. This argument tracks. The self-defense argument is something that I can understand. That's why Israel, even to this day, will always bring forth the self-defense narratives. The expansion of the Golan Heights, which is annexed Syrian territory that the Trump administration acknowledged as permanent Israeli territory in direct contravention of international law. There is now a further expansion of the Golan Heights, according to the Israeli government. The reason why what is this? Ethan Klein H3 68 videos. What does this have to do with anything? Using check your privilege to excuse away fascist policy is a super crazy spin. Shit like, yeah, it's easy for you to call for civil rights for black people from a cushy big city university. We're fighting them daily. Yeah. Huh? What is this person saying?
There was
there's a lot of weird ass motherfuckers
Greater
in the
Israel
chat
that
today.
blocked out the West Bank and Gaza. And it was like, I remember in the newspaper when you were growing up, almost daily, right?
Not
Suicide
daily,
bombs
but it was
weekly
happening a lot, and it was terrifying. Yeah.
in cafes, shopping malls, and buses.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just like a slaughter. It was just a slaughter. And so they're like, oh, let's build a fucking wall then. And lo and behold,
Ethan has less followers than you. Dude, what are you talking about? Ethan has one of the largest YouTube accounts out there. Ethan is OG YouTuber. He has multiple YouTube properties that are significantly larger than myself, including the H3H3 podcast. The H3H3 podcast is significantly larger than any property I have on YouTube. It's got 2.79 million subs. Their video numbers, I mean, their analytics don't look as great now as they once did, but they're still fairly popular.
no more suicide bombs. And my whole time there.
Also, it doesn't even matter. Nick Fuentes has way less motion than myself, but I still see him as a serious threat. It's so weird. Like, just because someone is like far less consequential doesn't change. Like, if they're saying something, if they're trying to normalize certain ways of thinking.
My whole 5 years living there, there was like one failed
attempt,
shitty attempt.
You know, the list goes on.
You told me once you went on like a mission with them to like a terrorist city.
But these clips are all quite old, and for a while there, Ethan was able to hide any of his own Islamophobia. Yet when October 7 took place, Ethan Klein's Islamophobic tendencies came to the forefront.
I find it incredible that people think that Hamas is going to take over all of Israel and happily coexist with Israelis. If there's a state of Palestine, it makes sense. But if you're in one state, all that's going to happen is like everybody is trying to bring as many people there as possible. And like by the time...
What do you mean everybody? Like, does he mean Palestinians? Yeah, how terrifying. Palestinians have been purposely cast out from their homeland. Will want to come back. Like, we cannot coexist with them. It's terrifying. Like, this right here is this is it. This is just like, it is considered appropriate to be able to say these things. If you were to say this about black people, like, everyone would understand what the fuck you're talking about. Say it about Arabs, though. Say it about Palestinians, and everyone's like, well, maybe he has a point. And the worst part about it is that, like, Ethan himself does not give a shit. I know he, at least when I talked to him, I don't think he gave a shit about the demographic concerns of the state of Israel. Why the fuck should he care? He's from California. Like, ridiculous, right? And it feels like this is a relaundering of a certain point of propaganda that has worked on him as well. Do you understand?
Frankly, are a lot of Palestinians, right, in the area. And once the Palestinians outnumber the Jews, basically...
Like, this is just great replacement. You understand that, right? I'm sure Ethan would understand that. When people say this in America, that's why I always point out, we here in the United States of America, the royal we, have demographic concerns. But when someone says that to you in the United States of America, virtually everybody understands what the fuck's going on. Okay? Especially those who are well-read, or especially those who are at least somewhat liberal-minded, very quickly understand when a person says, we have demographic concerns in the United States of America. What does that mean? Ne? Dış kapı açık. Kimse yok ama dışarı. Başka bir şeyler daha mı order ettin? Kafayı yiyeceğim ama. They keep ordering food. That sounds like what why racist people would say pre-desegregation. No, that's exactly what it is. Demographic concerns by the demographic in-group is inherently a racist concept. It has historically always been at the forefront of fascist ideology. People say that now, though, too. What do y'all mean? No, I know. And we always know what that means when people say that, don't we? I know what that means. You know what that means. Okay? Yeah, exactly. The people that say white people are losing the majority argument from like 2 years ago is a fucking racist ass argument. Everybody here understands that. That is a racist ass argument. The question always is, what are you talking about? So what if there aren't a majority of white people? What is whiteness? What is the solution to that? It's a fucking Nazi argument that is portrayed as a defensive posture, as though there is a valid claim here that America must be a white nation. Why? What does that even mean? What do you mean when you say it must be a white nation? Who is supposed to be white? Who is considered white? Throughout history, if you go back far enough in time, you will get back all the way to Benjamin Franklin, who considered Germans to be swarthy and not white. Only wasps were considered white. Whiteness as a concept has evolved throughout time. And in many instances, it has nothing to do with just the color of your skin. After all, many people don't consider me white, even though I say I'm white all the time. I am white. I look white. I'm pale as fuck. And yet people say, Hasan, you're not white. How could you be white? You're fucking, you know, you're Muslim. Your name is Hasan. And a big chunk of why people are no longer, are no longer as white as they once were is because miscegenation is no longer illegal. So what are you going to do? Are you going to make it so that it's illegal to fucking race mix? It's ridiculous. Anyway, let's continue.
Anything is fair game for the Jews. Anything. Oh, it's going to be a secular country? You mean Hamas, the Islamic fundamentalist group?
Wait, I don't understand. No one is saying that Israel needs to be a Islamic caliphate. Like, that's ridiculous. Yeah, no, when people say it must be a secular country, that's what they mean. It's not like a secret way of, I haven't seen this video. What the fuck is this? I don't even know where this is from, but this is a ridiculous video. Yeah, no, secular means secular. As in, people can practice religion in the safety of their own homes. But it doesn't mean that they can use religious doctrine to dictate what people can and can't do. I'm fairly certain that Ethan would agree with that, especially when it's fundamentalists of a Jewish nature, like the Itamar Ben-Gvirs of the world, that get to dictate what happens in Israel, that dominate the lives of secular Jews in Israel.
Is going to come out and do a secular country? What the are you talking about? I feel like people are so deluded. They'll look at something like from the river to the sea and be like, oh no, that doesn't mean that they want to, they just want to create a secular state and peacefully live with Israelis. By the way, segregation is not real. There's 20% of the population in Israel is Palestinian, full citizens, integrated in all levels of work.
I'm beginning to realize that I just didn't see a lot of Ethan's commentary after the leftovers fallout, which led me to assume that he wasn't doing straightforward pro-Israel propaganda. Because this right here is just straight up Hasbara. Oh, there's Palestinian citizens of Israel. 20% of society, 20%. I'm sure it'll be funny if he mentions the Arab Supreme Court. The Arab Supreme Court justice was the one who actually threw the former Israeli prime minister in prison. I've heard it 1,000,000 times over. Ridiculous. And you banned us for calling that out? Yeah, I did. You want to know why? Because at the time, I was more focused on covering things that actually mattered rather than getting myself involved with my former podcast co-host. And I stand by that decision to this day. I know this is petty, but the similarities are... Okay, dude, stop. He would literally talk about how he believes in apartheid state, but then would go away and say shit like this. He's so insincere. I think the problem here is that he took advantage of a lot of your charitability and still enjoys the benefits of you believing he might understand what's wrong. He's fooled a lot of us. He does use the Supreme Justice talking point.
And over time, he played victim, claiming that people calling him a Zionist are being anti-Semitic. Ironically, an anti-Semitic statement in and of itself. But I'll get to that in a bit.
That's my problem, is that people, they're watching with the expectation, they're looking for any...
I think his past open criticism of Israel and advocacy for Palestinians carries so much weight until October 7. Yeah, it carried a lot of weight for me too. Don't double down. You didn't do research about your co-host. Take the L and move on. Token Yemeni. Yeah, my bad, dude. I should have spent a what did Ethan say hour every day instead of covering the slaughtered children that Israel was killing at the time. You're right. My bad. Sub for years, I was fooled too by him. Yeah, that's what I should have done. I should have centered the conversation around like petty drama between me and my podcast co-host so that like all these other fucking parasitic drama farmers could like attach themselves to that conversation as well. You know, make money for everybody. And every single day not talk about issues that actually mattered. You know? And you're doing it right now, dude. You're the one claiming he was a friend. At least admit to it and say you're sorry. Aw, does it hurt your feelings? Does it hurt your feelings that I didn't know the full scope of his commentary? Oh, I'm sorry. Talk to me when he spends, I don't know, a month and a half actively trying to get you deplatformed, okay? Are you the real victim here? Are you the real victim here, chatter? Do you feel so, are your feelings hurt? Are your feelings hurt that I covered genocide instead of whatever the fuck Ethan was talking about? My bad. Well, you banned people for calling him out before? Yeah, I did. Because it was irrelevant at the time. And I was right to do so. And I still stand by that, okay? I'm so sorry that your feelings were hurt. Yeah. Do you not hear what I'm saying? Do you not hear the words that are coming out of my mouth? At the time, covering Ethan would have been irrelevant. Regardless of whatever kind of fucking Hasbara that he was churning out. That's what I'm saying. Would you rather have me cover your personal anger and resentment that you had, the personal frustrations that you had with a podcast host that you had a parasocial relationship with, or cover the act of genocide that was ongoing? Oh my God, there's another fucking... Okay, this is out of control. Baba! Baba! Bir tane daha geldi. They ordered even more people. You say you don't care about drama shit while covering more important stuff like open genocide. Chatter still sent links after that and got the hammer. It's their fault, not yours. Yes, exactly. Anyway,
little nugget to get indignant over and to call me a Zionist.
Mm-hmm.
If you call me a Zionist, you're anti-Semite. You know why? Because I'm not a fucking Zionist, and I've made that exactly profoundly, deeply clear. So when you see someone on Twitter, when you see someone in the audience calling me a Zionist, what they're calling me is a fucking Jew.
And this whole Zionism thing is just so fucked up. It's basically a purity test on Jews.
Mm-hmm.
You got to be, are you a good Jew or a bad Jew?
It's so crazy because, like, there are hella Jewish people, many of which I collaborate with, many Jewish people that are on this platform that simply don't agree with Ethan. And yeah, if someone is an anti-Zionist, actually, okay, and Jewish, and then someone turns around and goes, oh, you're a Zionist, okay, yeah, I would assume that that person is anti-Semitic. But it seems like Ethan has given enough. It seems that Ethan has given enough information to people who are passing by or people who are actively tuned into his podcast, like large chunks of his progressive fan base that don't agree with him on this issue and have made up their own conclusions. Segregation is not real, y'all. The Palestinians' land day does not commemorate the Nakba or 67. It's 1976 during Yitzhak Rabin's first government. 20,000 dunams of land were expropriated from Palestinian citizens in Sakhanin to build Jewish towns. As a part of the Judaization of the Galilee, the Palestinian protested with a general strike. The military shot and killed 6 unarmed protesters. Since the 1948, over 700 Jewish towns have been built on Israel, 0 for Palestinian citizens. Yeah, Ethan, also in the conversation that I had with him at the time when I thought he was, pro-Palestinian, pro-Palestine in general. At that time, when I did give him a longer, like a lot more bandwidth to speak his mind, when he said the Jewish voice for peace could be akin to to capos. I personally thought that was an insane thing to say. And if you go back and watch, like, so much of my back and forth with Ethan could be demystified. If you go back and watch that last conversation that me and him had, it's on my YouTube page. You can go watch it. Okay? You can go watch it and you will see a lot of the conversation, a lot of the back and forth we had. We covered a broad swath of issues. Okay? And in that moment, I genuinely were like, Hasan just said that you're having Jewish people make a distinction that you're anti-Semite. Wait, what? He's right. They have a machine that's trying to separate. What the fuck? What are you saying? I walk through public hallways of that's right. Surely another existential crisis. See, I love Gabor Mate. Is one of my favorite Jewish people. And then, what? When he was bombarded by people that broke my heart. You're in your own cloud. People notice that there's no way people can know how bad the problem is now. They just have to check in with Jewish people to see they're going to get a horror story. He's right. They have a machine that's trying to separate the two of us all the time in public. You're an anti-Semite, is Hasan saying. Hasan just said you're having Jewish people make a distinction that you're an anti-Semite. Wait, what? Yeah, but you're that guy who watches streamer buddies acting like terrorists and you laugh only to come back to Holocaust and genocide back to back. Think of a mental gymnastics is unreal. What the fuck? What year did you start not liking Jewish people? 1955? This is a schism here? What the fuck is this person saying? He called Matt Lieb anti-Semitic. Matt Lieb did Birthright. Eaton said on the YMH podcast that Birthright was brainwashing by rich Zionist Europeans. I don't know what the fuck this guy's saying, but I think it's great that he's in here. He should say it.
So, in what world is that normal? To be like, sorry, no Zionists, death to Zionists. So, you go to all these campuses, no Zionists allowed. So they're saying, are you a good Jew? Or are you a...
Yeah, it's funny that he says this. And if he were to actually critically examine the situation, or at least talk to a singular organizer on campus, he would very quickly recognize that most of those campus protests were organized by Jewish groups, like Jewish Voice for Peace, Students for Justice in Palestine. They were incredibly diverse. And there were many Jewish anti-Zionists that were leading these protests. And that's not tokenizing them or using them as a fucking defense mechanism in the way that people cynically claim it is. It's because they also were upset with what Israel was doing. They also understand Zionism in the same way that we do, which is that at its bones, Zionism, in its current inception, in its modern iteration, in the way that it works, and some might even say certain variants of Zionism initially, are a fascist ideology. That's it. It has the same exact in-group, out-group dynamic. It is built around uplifting an ethno-religious supremacist ideology and dominating the indigenous population that Israel has sovereignty over. It's so crazy. It's not shocking that there are plenty of Holocaust survivors that have initially started off thinking, oh, sick, a homeland. This is going to be awesome. And then very quickly realize what the fuck is up. Albert Einstein is one of the most prominent examples of this. This is actually what I talked about extensively, not only in the Cambridge speech, but I focused on this a lot more on the Oxford Union speech. And I'm very excited for it to come out. Hopefully it will eventually. But I talked about the dangers of falsely conflating the actions of Israel with Judaism. To be fair, Einstein's view when it came to Israel was way more complicated. Yeah, but